Welcome to the very first Q&A on the channel. And before we get started, if you're new here, my goal with Average to Jacked is simple. It's to show you guys that fitness does not have to be complicated. There is so much noise and confusion in 2025, and most people, especially beginners, they get overwhelmed by the information overload. And on this channel, I give straightforward advice to help you get jacked without obsessing over the gym. So let's get right into the video. And I made a community post a few weeks back, just letting you guys know I was going to do a Q&A, and these are some of the questions you wanted answered. And we're going to start with YOLO. He asked, your push legs pull split only allows you to hit a muscle group once per week. I understand less is more, but still, shouldn't we hit every muscle 2 times per week? So wouldn't an upper, lower, upper be better if I go 3 days per week? And honestly, man, that's a really good question. Like, it's probably one of the most common questions I get on this channel is like, Eric, should I train a muscle 2 times per week? Or what about full body 3 times a week? Because I hear that, frequency is important. What you guys have to understand is that frequency matters, but only to a point. Like, if your volume is equated, so no matter if you do full body or push legs pull, whatever, by the end of the week, if you've accumulated the same number of like sets per muscle group, you're probably still in that same range to grow on whatever you do. So personally, I built my physique off of a 4 day upper lower. And, some weeks throughout the last 5 years, maybe I did upper lower upper, so just 3 times a week. But I would say on average, somewhere between 3 to 4 days a week. What I noticed was that when I did upper lower, on my upper days, I would come in and I would always prioritize like my push movements first. And then I would then go into my back movements. And if I could do it all over again, I would have alternated on that second upper day. Like, I would have started with back and then chest, and then the next upper day, chest and then back. Because with upper lower, you're going in and whatever muscle group you're starting with, by the time you get to the last half of your workout, you're pretty much spent. So if you're then doing back on the last half of your workout, you're not going to be as like primed, and you're not going to have as much energy. And so with the push legs pull split, what I'm experimenting with now, I love this type of split because I go in and I give all of my focus to one muscle group. So even if maybe training, 2 times frequency is better, if I'm more consistent and I enjoy training on the push legs pull split, to me, that is more important than maybe like 1 to 3% more gains. So don't get so caught up in the frequency, get caught up in what you enjoy doing the most as far as your program. Next question is, how much sleep is important and how many hours do you sleep, and are you regular with it every day? I'm not like a sleep scientist. I'm just going to give you pretty like straightforward generic advice that you've probably already heard, but it's somewhere between 7 to 9 hours a night. I know that there's like a very, very small like portion of the population that can get away with less, but I think it's like 0.1%. So aim somewhere for at least like a minimum of 7 hours. And remember that just because you're asleep in 7 hours or like your eyes are closed doesn't mean you're getting deep sleep. This is not sponsored at all, but recently I invested in a ultra human ring, and basically it tracks your heart rate, it tracks your sleep, and it can tell you, exactly how much like REM sleep or these like deep sleep cycles you're getting. So, I've always got like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And it wasn't until I started tracking it, I realized that my heart rate wasn't dropping, or I wasn't getting into deep sleep until like 1 or 2 in the morning. So even though I had my eyes closed and I thought I was sleeping good, I, wasn't maximizing it. And so some of those things you can do is like limit like how late you're eating, limit your blue light at night. So like how closely to bed are you, still consuming content on your phone and looking at screens, like all those things make an impact. So to answer your question, like for sure, if you're training hard, especially you're training to failure and you're pushing for progression and progressive overload, at least 7 hours minimum. MS asks, can you give your idea for good strength standards on key compound lifts and maybe even some major isolation ones, like numbers to shoot for? I'm gonna be honest, man. Strength standards, they're important, but they're important for the individual. So instead of looking at, are you benching 225? Are you squatting 315? Are you deadlifting 405? And maybe like pull-ups, are you doing 15 to 20 with your body weight? Like, those can work and those are good goals to shoot for, but you have to understand that like we are very individual with our genetics. So like there's some people that are 5'4" and there's some people that are 6'7". Like just giving you this like arbitrary number to shoot for isn't necessarily going to carry over to everyone. Like, if you are benching 225 pounds, you're probably going to have a decent sized chest. If you are deadlifting 405, you're probably going to have a decent sized posterior chain. Like I said, the numbers matter, but what matters the most is like, if you're starting out and you're benching 135 pounds, like add 100 pounds of that. Like go up to 235, 250, 275. Like focus on putting on, 1.5 times your body weight in strength. So like if you're deadlifting right now 225 and you can get it to 400 or maybe even two times, like what I'm basically saying is don't get caught up in these numbers. Like focus on yourself in the individual numbers that you're actually pushing. So, look at where you're at now and then set a goal to like double that. Maybe even elite numbers would be tripling that in some way, which is probably going to take you years and years. But like some people have a big chest and they don't bench 225. Some people, don't squat 315 and still have big legs. So, set those numbers if you want, but the most important part, because I'm kind of like repeating myself here, is just like making sure you look at what you're currently doing and then trying to, add two times, three times on top of that. And once again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a long time. Next question from Minus. He asked, nutrition is the main thing holding me back. As a fussy eater, I find it hard to bring myself to try new foods or in general eat a majority of what's good for me. What are your main staple foods and meals that anyone who is trying to get jacked needs, and maybe some alternatives if someone really can't bring themselves to eat it? I'm going to kind of give you some hard truth here, man. It's like if you want to get jacked, if you want to be healthy, there's not just like a wide range of foods and all of these like different things you can kind of add. Like, of course, you can add spices and different seasonings, but like I talk about it in almost every single one of my videos and all of my posts. It's just I eat whole foods, like real nutrient dense whole food that God intended for us to eat. So, what does that look like? Rice, potatoes, fruit, honey, all excellent carbohydrates. For protein, it might be ribeye steak. It might be like 80-20 ground beef that's grass fed. And then for chicken, pasture raised. I can't tolerate eggs because I'm allergic, but maybe you're throwing in some eggs. And then for fats, it's avocado, olive oil, avocado oil, peanut butter, almond butter. Like I don't really sway too far from there. So like you're asking for alternatives, it would just be like maybe if you like grapes, maybe you switch it up every now and then for apples or bananas or dates, or you can definitely have some variety in there. But I'm a firm believer in keeping meals simple and basic, and our body actually enjoys simple meals and not trying to digest something that's got 65 different ingredients that you can't even pronounce. So like think about it. It's like you eat like a Pop Tart that's got 30 ingredients, or you just eat an apple. It's like, what does your body prefer? Obviously, something that's just simply ingredient. So, to answer your question, like I just stick to simple ingredient foods. And like, if you're struggling and you're a fussy eater, you have to just kind of think to yourself, like, if your goal is to be jacked, if your goal is to be healthy, you just have to look that resistance in the face and just stare it head on and be like, I'm labeling myself as a fussy eater, but I essentially just have to get over that and I have to, do what's going to get me towards my goal. Chalk asked, best 3 days workout split for strength and endurance and some aesthetics. Should I do push pull legs, hit a muscle group once per week intensely, or full body, hit a muscle group 3 times per week less intensely, and one exercise per day? It's really up to you, man. If you've watched a lot of my content, you know that I'm going to say pick a program and stick to it. So the truth is, I'm not dogmatic at all. Like I have a workout program, Average to Jacked, which teaches people an upper lower split. I also have, push pull legs. And then way earlier, I used to promote full body. They all work, but if you are a beginner, what I prescribe to my online coaching clients, as well as the main program in Average to Jacked, it is a 3 to 4 day a week upper lower split. So the upper lower is going to give you a lot of practice on those movements, and it's one of the best routines out there, and has built some of the world's best record holders, and it's just an all around good program. So you're asking push pull legs or full body, and I'm giving you upper lower, but truly you can pick whatever one you want. Just stick with it. The nuance between what program you're going to do, it's all about adherence when you're a beginner and just getting the repetition in. Next question is from Mikey, and he asks, are you always progressing every week on this minimalistic approach? Have you ever gotten stuck on an exercise at a certain rep number? And about how long does it take you to move up in weight? That's a really good question, man. And it really depends on, where you're at as far as, are you a beginner, an intermediate, and advanced? I would look at myself as like a early advanced lifter. Like my strength isn't just insane, but I'm definitely up there. So as far as if I ever start noticing myself plateau, especially with me doing much lower volume, most of the time it is a recovery issue. And then I just ask myself a couple questions. Did I eat enough? Did I sleep enough? Was I stressed? Did I hydrate? All of the basic kind of things I talk about in most of my videos. And for the most part, I should be able to progress every single session. And a lot of people think that's impossible. And they're like, there's no way that you always can go up in weight and you always can go up in reps. But like, it's really not that crazy if you think about it. Like, even though my strength is getting up there, it's not impossible to add one rep to at least one set. But let's say everything else is on point, your recovery is on point, and you're still stalling. That's when you might look at taking a deload or even switching up an exercise. So let's say you're doing incline, barbell bench and you're hitting a plateau. Maybe it's time to switch to dumbbells. Maybe you're hitting a plateau with pull-ups. Maybe it's time to switch to lat pull downs. Kind of gives your body a break from doing those same repetitive movements. But honestly, progression, if you kind of follow what I teach and the minimalistic lower volume approach, you should be progressing in at least a rep on one of your sets every single workout. Next question is from True, and he asks, don't you think for men's physique competitors or open bodybuilders that you may need 4 to 5 days of training a week to specialize on body parts? Here's the truth, man. I talk about 3 to 4 days a week. Like that is good for 99% of lifters, the everyday guy who's, got kids and got a full-time job. If you are dedicating your life to being a men's physique competitor and you're trying to go pro or you're trying to be a bodybuilder, like my content really isn't for you. My content, like I said, is for the guy who wants to get jacked for everyday life, look good at the beach with your shirt off. If you're trying to actually like make this a career, then yeah, 4 to 5 days a week is probably going to be better because you're dedicating your life to it. So everything, your lifestyle, your recovery, your nutrition, everything is so dialed in that like squeezing out that 1 to 2% more muscle growth matters. And so, yeah, you probably need to follow something that's more specialized. But the truth is, and I always say this in my videos, is like you can get 99% of your gains training 3 to 4 days a week. It's, do you want to put in all of that extra effort? So that 100 times more effort for 1 to 2% more gains. Personally, I don't, but if you're dedicating your life to bodybuilding, then you need to go do what bodybuilders are doing. Next question is, do you jog or sprint or swim or anything like that in between? Yes, I just recently actually started surfing, which involves a lot of swimming and a lot of paddling. It is like extreme cardio that I never expected, but I've been surfing. And then before that, I experimented for a little bit with like zone 2 cardio, like going on jogs, going on bike rides. But really, the staple is just daily walks every single day. So at the end of the night, like I have these trackers that tracks my progress and tracks my steps. And my goal is to hit 8,000 steps a day. So one of the biggest hacks to being lean, it's not doing extreme cardio or these complex routines. It's just simply getting outside and walking for 30 to 45 minutes at a time. And if you can do that twice a day, then you're going to be in a really, really good range as far as your daily step count, which literally reduces mortality. You will live longer if you walk more. And it's one of the easiest things to do to get lean. So 100%, to answer your question is yes, I swim, I surf, and I get my daily walks in. KAS says, I still can't lose the last bit of belly fat. I've been trying this for the last year. KAS, gonna give you the hard truth as well. If you have belly fat and you can't lose it, you're going wrong somewhere. And I call this like finding the hole in your bucket. So are you tracking your macros? Are you, getting your steps in? Are you progressing in the gym? So like, are you building muscle? If you're not doing these things and you're not really paying attention to them and you're just hoping that you're going to wake up and be lean, that'll never happen because our results are based on our actions. And so you just need to look at your actions that you're taking every single day. And so I call them like daily non-negotiable. So if you're trying to lose the last bit of belly fat, then you need to be in a caloric deficit. So you need to be tracking your macros, you need to be tracking your calories, you need to be tracking your weight, and you just stick with it. But if you've been trying for the last year and it's not working, then you really need to zoom in and make sure you're doing the correct daily actions. The last question is from Chris, and he says, I find it very hard if I'm going balls to the wall on the first set to then replicate the same reps on the subsequent sets. What do you think about a progressive overload schedule? For example, first set of 8, second set of 7, third set of 6, then the next week, 9, 8, 7, etc., until I'm adding more weight. Chris, that is exactly right. So if you're training balls to the wall or to failure, that is much different than leaving 1 to 2 reps in reserve. And that's what I teach for my beginner and then early intermediate clients. Like if you're training to failure, then of course your first set will never match your second, because if you're truly giving it everything you got, you're not going to be recovered in 2 to 3 minutes to then match that that set. If you do match it, then you probably didn't train to complete failure on the first one. So the way that you can gauge this to know that you're doing it right is, are you beating one of those sets every single workout? Like I talked about this a little bit earlier in the Q&A, but like even if you're just beating one of those sets, so maybe the next workout you get 8 and then you get 7, and then the last set instead of 6 again, you get 7, that's still progressive overloads. And that's gonna be it for this Q&A, guys. I truly appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions or you want me to continue to do these maybe every 2 weeks or once a month, then drop your questions below this video. And once we get 10 to 20, I'll go through them and then I'll answer them for you in a future upload. So appreciate you guys. If you want to show support to the channel, I have one product, and that is my Average to Jack program. You also get access to my private community, and you can join hundreds of other lifters that are on the same journey, the same mission, and just be able to be in a group of people that are, motivated, keeping each other accountable. So if you're interested in that, check the link below this video. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.